Welcome to this episode of Data Epoch, where we'll be discussing insights from a data engineer. We have Gunjan here with us today. Hello, Gunjan.
Hi, Sanjana.
Gunjan has been playing around with data for more than 3 years now. She's passionate about building data platforms, data lakes, data governance, and distributed systems. She is language and technology agnostic and believes in choosing the right tool stack and component for the job. So, Gunjan, how and why did you get into this field of data engineering?
Um, Funny story actually. So in my final year, this data engineering role was offered to me by my first company, and since I was new to the whole engineering game, I did not have one single clue as to what it was. So like a normal kid in their final year, I googled what data engineering is and what they actually do and how it is different from software engineering, because at that point of time most of my peers got roles in software engineering itself. And so what wherever and whatever I read, it was like intriguing to me as to what this job is, and so I just took up the role because it did sound fun. And big data and Hadoop systems were like all the big buzzwords at that time. It still is a big buzz there for it. So yeah, I just took up the job. Although there's a misconception about it that all you have to do throughout your life is write ETL pipelines and that's it. But I think there's a shift as to what I read in my final year about data engineering as to what I am currently doing in this field is like the engineer is to believe it, like it's a notion that an engineer should be able to build platforms which allows analysts to quickly write up their own orchestrations and build ETL pipelines and egress the data. And it is now required by the analyst to not just write SQL queries but move on to Hive queries as well and do simple orchestrations on Airflow. So with the changing time, I guess everybody has to change and like build up their own skill sets. So for me, um, what I read on Google in my final year to what I have been doing since last 3 years, like platformizing the data stack and helping others build, like have a self-serve platform to build their own ETL pipelines and fetch data on a self-serve basis and help them derive insights and conclusion backed by data. That is what I think excites me and fuels me to stay in the field.
Awesome. So it's basically going to be evolving, but it's all about, enabling the right platform and right, tool sets to face big data, correct?
Yes.
So what is your process of coming up with an action plan to set up the right data infrastructure or platform for a given problem, and when is the right time to plan for scale?
Um, like that is also a big process, right? In one day you cannot, like, as Rome was not built in a day. You just have to evaluate stuff, keep on learning about other tools and platforms which are already existing, take insights from what people have already done and have failed doing it and have been successful doing it, right? So I have worked in two small scale startups, and since money is at crunch, you just cannot throw money at all the problems, right? You just have to do a lot of evaluation before taking any decision. So it should be, the decision should come from a strategic point of view. um, so in the process of evaluating, one of the first thing that we see is how easy it is to use the tool, how easy it is to bring a new tool into our systems. um, in the beginning, as we are starting up, the scale is very small and a lot of technologies in the first glance will look like, okay, this might be a good tool for our use case, right? But we actually have to uh, think for the future as well,
Yeah.
as to where, as the company grows, as the data grows, we will this tool be able to scale to that level?
Hmm.
Because in the beginning, because I remember in the beginning at one of the startups, we did not have any. I joined as the first engineer in the data platform team, and we did not have any data, or we would have like few tables in the beginning. And for us to be able to check whether this tool, whether a particular tool will be able to scale with time, we have to generate our own data and build up that dummy data set to actually make evaluate a tool whether it'll be able to scale or not. And also a lot of times, we when we are evaluating tools, we know that out of the box it's not going to suit our use cases, right? And we'll have to make tweaks and changes to the existing code base so that we can use it in our own scenarios, right? So ability for us to work with a tool and make changes to it, that is also one of the key parameters that one needs to see before even getting started
Yeah.
on a particular tool. So the
Correct.
ease of deployment and development should be there.
So, would you advise that, sort of keep scale in mind from the beginning because it's much harder to sort of transfer from one tool to another, migrate data and everything from one tool to another later. So we have to keep scale in mind from the beginning.
Yeah, because a lot of, like, there are tons and tons of tools in the market for for doing a single thing. There are tons of tools in the market, but then again, whether you will be able to make changes and be able to scale with those changes, those are the two things that you actually need to see. And apart from that, because migration is a very, very, very engineering heavy task for
Hmm.
uh, for us to move from one tool to another, then you'll have to educate the people who are actually who have like they have accustomed themselves to a particular tool. When you move to another tool, you'll have to educate them also on the new tool itself. So migration in any case is like a big
Yeah.
hectic decision. And apart from that, since I have worked in the financial sectors mostly, and India has a lot of restriction as to how data should be stored and should be processed. There's a lot of laws around data privacy.
Yeah.
So that is also one thing that we need to keep in mind. Although we try to provide data to everybody and help them along the way, but we also need to see whether we'll be able to hide the sensitive data or mask the sensitive data. How easy is it to do such a transformation of the data with a tool, right? So externalizing data to the BA and the scientists so that they can use it, keeping in mind that we are also abiding by the rule, that is also one big thing. And having said that, that we should evaluate everything and be careful with our selection as to what we are using. We might run into unexpected issues. Nobody has seen the future, and in the future might be the case that things may go south and we'll have to do a whole 360 altogether.
Mhm.
So we'll have to be prepared for that as well, because like in our case, we looked at Hoodie. Apache Hoodie is one of the open source tools, and from an angle it looked very, very promising tool to us, technology to us, and we did start using it. For a year it worked very well, but as we started running into issues, and we did a deep, like, as we were working with it for a year, and we had a clear understanding as to what the technology was and how the backend systems were working. um, we got to know that okay, maybe using hoodies own metadata store is not the solution for us.
Mhm.
But that learning came after we ran into many issues with it, right?
Yeah,
So I guess learning and evolving with time is the key. How you can make the current system work and make the changes so that it keeps on working.
got it. So we were talking about a lot of tools, right? And having the best
Yeah,
tech and like being ready for adaptation to the future. So vendors
yeah,
offer like a variety of tools and you should be spoiled for choices like AWS, GCP, etc. So how do you
yeah.
evaluate and pick the ones that are best for the business or the problem?
Um, as I said that evolving with evolving times and um, with evolving use cases, there might be a case that one solution fits them all will never be the scenario in the real world, right? Um, so, and the cloud computing market has come a long way since like the last few years, and we have tons and tons of providers, and so the decision making has become all the way more difficult, right? So, still there are many parameters as to every situation is different, and it's the scenario that actually derives the decision, but availability of the zones in which the data can be present. As I said earlier, that there's a law that data of sensitive data of customers should not go outside India.
Mhm.
So when we were evaluating some of the tools earlier in the development phase of data platform, few of the tools we could not, although they were very good solutions, we could not integrate with them because they did not have data centers in India. So that is one big factor as to the availability of the zone in which we can store the data. Then again, the ease of using it, right?
Yeah,
Establishing it and bringing in the new platform with the existing platform, so that bind should be easy to do. It should not be like we are doing a whole 360 on the platform itself just to bring in one new tool and work with it, right? So that flexibility should be there. Apart from that, with these services,
hmm,
I think managed service, I think AWS has been in the game for so long now. They have the most evolved and mature services that are out there, no doubt about that. But then,
and also with
but
respect
then,
to availability zones as well, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Although we have run into issues with AWS as well, because although they say that the availability is close to 100%,
Hmm.
but you might see cases where the instances have gone down, or um, uh, storage has gone for some time, or stuff like that. So you'll have to make your system that resilient that if one instance goes down, there are other to support it and stuff like that. With managed service, I think there is a lot of options present in AWS specifically. GCP and Azure are catching up, I guess. But then again, might be the case that in the beginning or even after, like when the company has matured enough, then also there might be simple use cases only, and you might not need 100 services, right? You might, in that service also, you might need basic features, basic stuff to keep your ongoing platform, keep your platform going, right? So although there are a ton of options, but it comes with a cost too. So within a managed service also, there are multiple services that you don't use, but you are actually paying for it because they have matured so much.
Yeah,
So that is one case. And so pricing model also goes hand in hand with that, right? If you are taking one managed service and you just use it for one particular feature of it and not the 10 extra features that they are providing, what's the point of taking that whole
yeah.
service, right? So pricing model also is a big decision deciding factor.
Mhm.
um, and as I said, like with the evolving times and everybody is in this race of making money, so people and companies are throwing credits to engage and get more customers with time, right?
Yeah.
um, so instead of just going with the flow and going wherever the credits are, because in the future migration is going to be a really tough task
Hmm.
for people, instead of just hopping on the next trend or getting on whoever is giving us the better credit. Maybe we should look at pricing models which are sustainable, and we know that okay, this much we are going to give, and this is what we can give over the years, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's very insightful. Yeah. And what would you say are some major challenges you've faced so far in your career?
um Apart from the initial learning phase, as a kid who comes in to their first job and trying to see how people are like so talented, they I mean, there's this simple case where in my first job, some setup was not happening by myself, and I just went to my manager or lead at that time, and he just, instead of telling me anything, he was like, oh, this thing, I'll do this, and this, and this, and voila, it's solved. And I'm like, oh my god, that wonder kid, oh my god, how people know such so many commands, and how everything is fed in their brain like anything, like by the of one sort they have done in their brain. Okay, for this is there. And I was really I was taken aback. Oh my god, I'm never gonna learn this much. But I guess as times evolve, you work with stuff, you um, read about stuff, you actually see, work on things and make it fail, and then work on it again and keep on working, and then you see, oh, this on, you have spent so much time on it, but then eventually it actually works. That first feeling of oh my code ran and it actually went to production. So that feeling is a different feeling. But yeah, apart from the initial learning phase, from a tech point of view, reading about all the systems and Hadoop ecosystem, there's so much to learn. I think after 3 years also there's so much to learn, because technology keeps on coming and there's something new, something that is coming in trend. So I guess apart from the initial learning phase, I think preparing for the unknown is one big challenge,
Mm.
because uh, okay, the engineer will tell you ki these are the fields, this is how the data is going to look, this is how it's going to come, and you have prepared yourself to for a certain scenario. But this is not an ideal world. Be it a man-made error or a systems error or whatnot, right? Things will fail. Matlab, in my initial days, I was like, I did this, and this. For me, the checklist was done, and I was fairly confident that this is going to work like a charm, right? But
Yeah.
then you will see data is not as you would expect it to be, right?
Hmm.
And there's no way you can predict that. Ki, okay, this, I am expecting XYZ, but why is ABC coming here, right? So preparing for the unknown is like one of the biggest challenge. You never know what curveball the other sources are gonna throw at you. And I think observability and proper logging and alerting is the key to solve that, because it's the time that you take to actually make changes for the curveball that has been thrown at you, that should be reduced in a real world scenario.
Awesome.
Um, Even you must have seen that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you must have seen, ki, oh, I want data. My model is going to work on this thing, but actually, that is not going to come your way.
Yeah, so in general, there's just a lot of habitual and on-the-job knowledge that needs to be gained over time and cannot happen like immediately. And I think people starting should uh, not be too hard on themselves for not gaining all of that on the first day, because that's just not possible until they start working, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah.
Apart from that, as data engineers, we work on a lot of open source tools, right?
Mhm.
Apache has like the whole list going on as to what all tools that you can use, and a lot of time they might look very intriguing and might look like they'll solve all of your problems, but then after reading all of the documents, after going through each and every scenario, there might be case ki you might fall into some bug that you never saw, right? So I guess working with open source tool and contributing to them is one of um, the biggest challenge for data engineer, because you might read the documentation and it might work in a certain way which you think it will, but it will not. And then in some forum you will see, oh, this is a reported bug. Then you
Yeah.
have to make a u-turn and be like, oh, I need to make my changes. um, but I think with the zeal to make changes and continuously learn as to how things are working and how you can make it better and contribute to the open source, I think that is one of the things that will help you in the long run and keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, that is true. And like you mentioned, right, these are open source, so we cannot expect them to be
Hmm.
working perfectly all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Unlike things that you pay for, even then things may not be working, only that you have somebody to raise a complaint with. Over here, you just have to raise a bug and expect, or like sort of allow the community to put together some time to fix it, or pick up and fix it yourself by raising a PR as well.
Yeah, just have to take up on the put on the big girl shoes.
Yeah. So what would you suggest a fresher, and why would you ask them to look at systems or data engineering as their career?
um I would like to say that I think data engineering is a like a wholesome role, because as I said that in the starting, I was also over the edge whether data engineering is the field, because most of my peers, like out of the 100%, 90% of them are software engineers. And in my initial days also, I used to think, oh, why am I doing this? People are doing software engineering and maybe I should also hop on that trend. But I feel that as a data engineer, I have done more than when I talk to my peers and what they are working on. I feel that I have done more than them, and I have more exposure as to what all we work on, right? um, and especially in a startup where things are like ball is still begin to roll, and there's tons of stuff to do. I think that like I personally, although since data is coming from all directions, from front end, from back end, from servers, so I have worked with the software engineering team as a product engineer, um, and shipped the whole critical feature from web app to the RPC services. I've also worked with the DevOps teams for observability and building monitoring services with them. So that's a DevOps and SRE role. So, and apart from that, we are doing your regular ETL pipeline building and platform building. So that's a data engineering role. So I guess specifically in a startup, you get more exposure if you take the data engineering role, because you get hands on from all the perspective. You put on the hat of various people all at once, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of exposure is there. But having said that, in a like now I'm in a bigger organization here, the you might not be able to put on so many hats at once, because there are teams specifically dedicated for observability. There's team specifically dedicated for DevOps, right? But here, what you'll be able to do is actually work on big data, and TVs of GBs and TVs of data sets you'll be handling, which is like not there in a startup, because the since company is growing and they are still evolving, there's not that much data to handle. um, that's there. So both in a big
How about like
organization.
legacy systems, dealing with legacy systems for data? Have you run across those ever?
No, no.
Mm.
My In my current organization, the like my team is fairly new, so we
Mm.
are here also building stuff from scratch. So that is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think I like doing that the most, building things
Hmm.
from scratch, and that's what keeps me happy and excited about this stuff.
Yeah. That's definitely a very good field.
Yeah.
And tell us about your passions outside enabling the best data platforms.
um in my college days, I was more into dancing and stuff. But as pandemic hit, everybody was locked in their uh, homes. Took up this thing, drawing and sketching, and
Hmm.
I'm fairly like I'm building up on that skill too. So I've recently started digital art to border an iPad and get the whole thing rolling. Uh, but I think arranging time for it is one of the biggest challenge for it. But yeah, I like drawing, sketching, painting of any kind.
Awesome. Where can people check out your digital art?
Oh, it's on Instagram. It's called Dreamy Eyed Girl. Go
Okay.
follow me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Gunjan. This has been very insightful, and I'm sure it will be very useful to both experienced data engineers as well as freshers who want to get in. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Sanjana.
All right. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.